As you go through today's presentation, I'd like for you to consider the feedback related to your papers as this being background to that feedback so that you can understand more details related to it. Use the comments in the presentation to guide your thoughts for the feedback related to your papers. Continue using the class textbooks, the model papers, and other resources to understand specific areas addressed within this presentation. I will address only a few points in the presentation. The model papers and the textbook continue to provide additional information on the topics discussed in the presentation. 4 significant paper requirements are what I'm looking at today. You need to have a compelling introduction, connected body paragraph points, sufficient and varied supporting points, and an effective conclusion. And I'll deal with each of those one at a time and bring up a few specific items that I've noticed in your papers. We'll start with compelling introductions. And so that's our first part. When we talk about a compelling introduction, the first thing we want is for the title to point to the thesis. Very important that the title point to that thesis. I should be able to look at the title alone and get an idea of the direction of the paper. Simply saying short story paper or example paper or descriptive paper or drama paper is inadequate. It does not tell me anything about your thesis. Introduce in the first or second sentence, introduce the author and the text, title that you're describing. Provide a specific introduction strategy that is clear for the reader. It could be question, a quotation, statistics, anecdote, or a problem, or a variety of other strategies to bring the reader into the paper. Provide an analytical thesis. I will discuss that later. Optional, provide a roadmap for the paper. This is an option. It is not required, although in most instances teachers, readers will expect you to give them a preview of the major points in the paper, but a roadmap is optional, and there are ways of handling that, and we'll discuss that later as well. Optionally, introduce an extended metaphor that will help the reader make connections with your topic. If you use metaphors to make ideas come together, that will often make it easier for the reader to understand what you are saying in the paper. So let's talk about first this analytical thesis. An analytical thesis starts out with something that resonates with you, some point that really intrigued you, caught your attention in looking at the text. And so find that point and determine what something means for you. Then move to the next level, which is it needs to be a defensible point. Think about it as if you were a courtroom lawyer and needed to defend something or prove something. Then you need to make sure, look at your statement, make sure that in terms of defending, that it's into a higher level of thinking, such as it compares things, contrasts things, evaluates significance of something, prioritizes something, identifies critical or significant points or stages for an area. So as you go through that, the higher order thinking types of words such as comparison, contrast, evaluate, prioritize need to be what you are looking at. Here are some examples of analytical thesis statements. An original thesis statement that wasn't analytical. Faulkner's A Rose for Emily reveals how Emily's life is affected by Colonel Sartoris, townspeople, and Homer Barron. You have a roadmap, and it's going to be proven in the paper, but it's really sort of a fact. You can show this. It doesn't have to necessarily, it's not it just says something, it shows how her life is affected by the people, but it doesn't really move us to this idea of comparison, contrast, and analyzing and making meaning of it. And so you want to make your thesis statement have meaning. So Faulkner's, a revision to that would be Faulkner's A Rose for Emily reveals how Emily's life uses imagery of darkness and light to reveal. This next part is making meaning. How dysfunctional relationships and denial control her life. That's the part that you would need to prove. And so that's what your thesis statement moves toward. Other examples of revised thesis statements that are more analytical. Faulkner's A Rose for Emily does not condemn Southern tradition, but instead uses imagery of darkness and light to reveal how dysfunctional relationships and denial should not dictate how one lives. And again, another example, basically the same, but how control, denial, and relationship often dictate how one lives. And that's more of a roadmap. Then you have the final example I'm providing for you. Again, using a roadmap, denial, time, and dysfunctional relationship, and that Emily must overcome those in order to move forward in life. So these are just a few variations of an analytical thesis statement from a student's paper. Moving on to the roadmap aspect of an introduction. Should you provide a roadmap or not? And if you don't or do provide a roadmap, what will be different for the reader? If you provide a roadmap, meaning you list the items that will be addressed in the paper, the thesis statement will provide that list of topic points to be developed. The topic points, once you get to them, will be in the order that in the thesis, they will be in the order that they will appear in the paper. That is very important that you provide them in the thesis in the same order that you provide them in the paper itself. Use transitional phrases, words, to help the reader understand that they're moving from one topic to another topic. That's part of your roadmap, some kind of sign indicator for the reader. If no roadmap is provided in the thesis, then you need to provide that elsewhere in the paper. Specifically, you will still make sure your thesis is assertive, defensible. Then you will look at your topic sentences. They become the most critical part of moving your paper along at this point, which they still are important even if you gave the roadmap in the paper, in the thesis part of the paper. Now you want to make sure that your topic sentences really help the reader figure out what is going to be next, and that this is the next point, and this is the argument that is moving along with the next point. And so you need to do that with that roadmap in the topic sentences. Again, use those transitional phrases and words to show the direction of the paper. Compelling introduction, just a reminder of the key items that I'm looking for in the compelling introduction. Title that points to the thesis, introduce the author and text, provide a specific introduction strategy, have an analytical thesis, provide a roadmap, use an extended metaphor, introduce it.